Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. Hey everyone, welcome back to Simply Business. We're doing something different today, a little different. No guest, no interview. You're stuck with just me. Why? Well, this is episode 100. Wow. Been doing this for just over 2 years. That's almost one a week. And most podcasts don't make it 20 episodes. I read that if you have 21 episodes, you're in the top 20% when it comes to longevity in the podcast world. And about half of all podcasts that are in the directories have been stagnant for at least 90 days. So I'm pretty proud of what I've done. So yeah, 100 episodes. Now that I've done that, I have done a few solo episodes. So that means we've had nearly 100 conversations with business owners, nearly 100 stories. Hopefully at least 100, or actually probably quite a bit more than 100 lessons. And, when I started this, I didn't have a grandmaster plan. The idea of doing it sounded like fun. I believed in something simple, that business doesn't have to be complicated, but it does require clarity. And when we get people to share their stories, the facts just come out, the stories come out, and they just flow so often. What I didn't anticipate probably is how much I would learn from these. So I want to first thank my guests because I've learned some fantastic things. I've been inspired by so many of you over the things that you have gone through to build your business. I want to thank the listeners. I have people say, hey, I listen to your podcast, or I listen at least to your snippets on social media. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank my team that does the behind the scenes work of booking guests and doing the editing and creating social media posts and all that kind of stuff. I do some of that myself, but they do a lot of it. And that drives consistency. And, doing this requires consistency. It requires, recording an episode every week on average, and talking to a lot of people, finding some people that aren't great fits and moving on. There's a lot to it beyond just getting behind a microphone and hitting record. When my coaching clients reach a milestone, sometimes it's just a year in, sometimes it's a certain period. Maybe it's an anniversary or a growth goal, a revenue goal. We don't just celebrate and move on. We actually like to pause. I like to reflect with them. And I use this tool that I call start, stop, continue. Actually, I call it stop, start, continue. I said it wrong. So today, for episode 100, I want to teach you about this tool. I'm going to apply it to myself in this podcast and invite you to apply it to your business as well. So what is this tool? I said it's stop, start, continue. And, what it is first, what do I need to stop doing? What needs to go? What's draining time or energy from me? What doesn't have a really good return on the investment? Start is obviously just the opposite. What are some things I've been postponing doing? What are some systems, some habits, some things that deserve attention? A lot of times I can't start them because I'm wasting time other places. So stop first. What am I going to stop? And then what am I going to start? And then continue is, what am I going to continue working on? What's working but could be better? What's working but I need to double down, put even more energy into it? When I do these things, it brings perspective, and it helps us frame things for going forward. It's great for goal setting. It's just one of those tools that as a coach I use often with my clients. So let's walk through this. For the Simply Business podcast, after 100 episodes, let's talk about what I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop overcomplicating the process. Early on, you try to make everything perfect, but you overthink, the intro, you overthink, uh, you know, everything you say, you overthink the logo and the name, and you edit everything, and you want everything perfect. I pledged when I sat down to record this, I was going to do it in one take, and I've already made a couple of mistakes, and I've caught that, and I'm just going on. This is going to be a one take, probably 15-minute podcast, and I'm just not striving for perfection. I always say perfection is the enemy of done. And so it's going to be good enough. And hopefully you'll still learn from it, even if I stumble on a few words or say start, stop instead of stop, start. Those are some things we might do. Second thing I'm going to stop is I'm going to stop saying yes to misalignment. Not every prospect, not every good business owner is a good guest. They're not always the right fit for the show. This podcast works best when a founder is transparent, reflective, willing to teach, has stories to share, and has stories that can be replicated in a lot of businesses that aren't so niche or so small that they really don't apply to a lot of businesses. So clarity sometimes means narrowing down and focusing in, being a little more intentional. I'm also going to stop doing manually what could be automated. I'm going to talk more about automation here in a second. But if a system is um, not, if there's a system that would not zap my creativity, I can still be authentic and everything else. It's strategic to look at automating that. So I do a lot of manual processes, and I need to get out of that. So if you're thinking of your business, what are you over perfecting something? Are you are you being inefficient in some areas? Do you waste your time and energy? Maybe too many meetings, too many documents, too many appointments, too many social events. Growth doesn't require more effort; it requires fewer distractions. And so I'm going to be working on eliminating some distractions. So that was stopping. Starting, what am I going to do? Well, by stopping, I'm going to free up some time, and I'm going to start doing some things. One is I'm already starting on what the future of this podcast looks like, and I'm not thinking about just the next episode because the next few episodes are already recorded. But I'm thinking about what I want this to look like going forward. What's my ideal guest? What types of stories have the biggest impact? Is there themes that we should look at, or should I refocus how I'm attracting guests and that sort of thing? I think if I spend some more time on that design, I'm going to find more energy and find some great guests. I'm going to also, I mentioned stopping doing some manual things. I'm going to start leveraging automation strategically. There's things that I know I can do through automation, things like intake forms and follow-ups and some of the workflows, reminders and things. I do a lot of stuff manually. And that's going to free up my mental energy. So I'll have hopefully come in more fresh, better prepared, more insight, having more insight from my guests to have them tell me more information up front so I can have a better story to tell. And I'm going to be really more intentional about really finding good guests that have great stories that are applicable, that inspire. Stories inspire, lessons. When we can take a lesson from that, it can truly transform our business. So when you think about what you need to start doing, what are you postponing because maybe you don't feel like you have time to do it, maybe you don't have the energy to do it? What can you start doing that's going to reduce some of that friction in your business? It's going to simplify things. A lot of times people don't want to start doing things because they think it complicates things, but you can actually get more clarity and simplicity sometimes by starting things that make it simple. And then finally, continue. What am I going to continue doing? Well, I'm gonna really double down on the things that I think are working great. Founder authenticity and vulnerability, finding those powerful moments in a business. When I look back over the past 100 episodes, the best episodes were the ones where a founder just told a raw story. I've got one coming up here in a couple of weeks where the guy just, I mean, he told a raw, real story, kind of embarrassed him a little bit. But you know what? He was willing to say, we really screwed up, but here's how we handled it. And people respect us for it. I love that. And I want to hear more of those things because those are turning points. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with pain, they connect with the challenges. Building a business isn't easy. And the more honest and vulnerable we are about that, the more our listeners will tune in and listen. Simplicity is another area I'm going to continue. I just want to make things simple for my guest and simple for me. And so, when we get really cut down to the fundamentals of clarity and leadership and discipline, culture, mindset, things like that, it, it, it really, it shows to me that clarity scales, complexity does not. In fact, complexity might impress people. I know business owners that wear complexity as a badge of honor, but it's not a badge for growth. Clarity is what drives growth. And I'm also going to double down on relationships. The biggest surprise of the first 100 episodes, it hasn't been the downloads or the reach or, how many, I always say tens and tens of listeners I have. It's really about the relationships I've formed. Over time, some of my guests have become referral partners. Some have been just trusted friends and confidants. A few have even become clients. And many have become part of what I would call a true, powerful business network. Not a contact list, but a true network of champions that will help magnify and amplify my reach. And that really was a pleasant surprise. It wasn't what I was expecting necessarily, but it's been a great outcome. Podcast isn't just a content platform, it's a relationship accelerator. And so when I sit down and talk to someone for 30 to 45 minutes and ask thoughtful questions, it builds trust. It helps me understand their business. It helps them understand who I am. And it's just powerful. And that's the key insight for me, that this has helped build trust, conversations, relationships. And so I'm doubling down on that. So where do you need to double down? Being intentional with your clients, being more intentional in networking and sales and growth, being more intentional about clarifying. What do you need to do? Don't abandon what has worked well but not perfect. How do you double down on it so that it becomes better? So as a wrap up, episode 100, it's almost done. It's almost in the can. But episode 100 isn't a finish line for me. It's just a checkpoint. And so if you're listening, I want you to pause too and ask yourself, what do you need to stop? What do you need to start? And what deserves your full commitment? What deserves you doubling down, putting more energy into it? Milestones aren't about ego, but there is a little bit of ego. 100 episodes, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty cool. But most businesses, they don't need more milestones. They need more successes. More successes come through clarity, because clarity compounds. Growth happens when we have clarity, when we have consistency, when we build that trust with our clients and our business partners. So I just want to thank you again. Thank you for listening. I hope you got some value out of this one today. Hope you come back next week and watch another great interview with another great business owner. Please refer people to me. If you know someone who would be a great guest, please send me an email or send me a text, or on LinkedIn or whatever platform. I love to have reviews, and I love it when you share the show. So here's to the next 100 conversations. Here's to building businesses that are simple but strong. Maybe complex in ways, but with clarity and simplicity wherever possible. Thanks for being part of this journey. I look forward to You're just taking 100 more steps with you. Thanks again for being here. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.